Welcome to the Grief Ladies, the practical guide to what comes next. I'm Kelly Daugherty.
And I'm Karyn Arnold, and we are two grief professionals with over 50 years of combined experience. We're here to validate, educate, and give you tangible tools you can actually use.
Each episode motivates you to take action and reminds you it's okay to want to feel better. This is the Grief Ladies, a guide to what comes next.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Karyn here with Kelly, and today we are welcoming Holly McNeill to us and to our podcast. Holly, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
Yeah, well, we're very excited because, as we know, we're going through the different parts of our framework, and today we're going to be on E, which is evolving, and we talk about self-esteem and some of the complex emotions, things like that, that can be very difficult for people as they're going through the grieving process. And I think it's an overlooked part of it too. So if you don't mind, Holly, I'll take a moment just to read your bio to give everybody a little bit of an idea of your background and what you're bringing to the podcast today.
Absolutely.
So, once designing hospitals and now designing peace of mind, Holly McNeill, known as the Mindfulness Architect, which Kelly and I both love that, by the way,
Thank you.
vowed at a personal low point to walk a more conscious path. Drawing from over 2 decades of study in neuroscience, quantum physics, psychology, spirituality, and Buddhism, she developed the PUR-LOVE formula, a practical blueprint for transforming suffering into self-awareness, agency, and peace. After navigating profound personal loss and the unraveling of her identity, Holly came to see grief not as something to escape, but as a sacred gateway to transformation. Today, she helps others understand how their minds work so they can move through pain with clarity, compassion, and intention. So again, Holly, we're glad to have you here. We have a lot of things and, already some keywords that I think, stand out that we'd like to ask you more about. So thank you.
Yeah, I just even listening to my journey, I've been really kind of emotional lately. I've got some, really joyful things going on. And so going back and hearing that just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's all a journey. So thank you again for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I think it's the reminder that as we do this work, we are practitioners and we are certainly here trying to help and assist other people, but we have our own backgrounds and experiences and, trauma, loss, belief system, all of these things that we bring into the work that we do with people. And I think for Kelly and I, we feel like that's a lot of what we hope to be able to offer is sort of this cumulative experience, both personally and professionally. And it feels like in some ways, the longer you do this work, the more you have to offer,
Yeah. Yeah.
and being able to connect with people.
Well, I love that, that we're doing Evolve because that's exactly right. I mean, my whole journey, I started at a place, a very low point where I was stuck and I was lost and I was grieving. And I put a belief out there, that there had to be better than this. There has to be a way through this. There has to be something I'm learning from this. And that belief, that intention itself was enough to spark this journey that I continue to evolve and grow. I'm very grateful, actually, to be honest, despite, there's always bumps in the road in this human journey. And that's what's here to teach us, but it can be very painful, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I would love to dive into Holly a little bit about the mindfulness piece. And so something, Karyn and I were chatting before we signed on today, and both of us utilize mindfulness a lot with our clients and trying to be here in the now. And
Mhm.
what we do have some resistance sometimes from some of our clients because
Yeah.
sometimes right now really sucks
Yeah.
and can be very difficult, especially when navigating a very significant loss from the death of a loved one.
Right.
And so I'm curious to hear your take on this because when we talk about mindfulness, it's about being in the present moment, right? But
Yeah.
our loved ones are in the past.
Right.
And that's where a lot of our clients want to be, right? They want to stay with that connection with their loved one in the past, the memories that are there. And they have a hard time with that present moment awareness. So what would you say about that?
Well, of course, anytime you're grieving, you have to respect the grief process. But
Mhm.
the more clarity you can get, the more time you can spend in your heart and out of the chaos of your mind, the more connection you're going to have to those that are no longer with you. That connection that we're all one, that we're all part of this amazing consciousness. And so getting first paying attention to, mindfulness, very definition, moment to moment, non-judgmental but curious awareness to what you're thinking, right? And all the sadness and of course those things, but then looking at them, are they serving me? Is this helping me? And then eventually letting them go creates that space for the present moment, that space of awareness and clarity. And when you get to that space, and the only place you're living, the only place that exists is right now in the present moment. And so the more time you spend here and out of the clutter of your mind, you can see things differently, and you'll start to see, whatever lessons you're learning. You'll start to see all the beauty that there was with whoever it was you lost, and you'll find your way, and you find your strength, and it's actually a very beautiful and peaceful place to be. None of that grief exists in the now, in the present moment. It's all in thoughts and patterns and habits. So you'll find an incredible peace here as well. Highly recommended.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always ask my clients to ask themselves, what's wrong right now? Because usually
Yeah,
when we're in this present moment, right? Really
yeah,
nothing's wrong right now.
yeah,
Yes, we don't have this person here with us, but in this very present moment, usually there's more good than wrong.
yeah, yeah. Well, again, all anxiety and all habits and patterns are in your subconscious and your brain. When you're on autopilot, your brain's going back in there and picking that stuff up, and that's how you get stuck in that pain, right?
Mhm.
And certainly, again, you have to give the time to grieve and all of that. But just stepping back in awareness and looking at it, it brings you to this present moment. First of all, where you can see it as separate than yourself. You are this amazing consciousness. You're on this human journey. And then you can also see that in this present moment there is peace. Without thoughts, there is peace.
Oh,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's those thoughts that trip us up, don't they?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And I think so many of our clients, especially, I mean, I see this a lot with widows or even bereaved moms. I work with a lot of bereaved moms, and they're so fearful about that future.
Mhm.
Who am I going to be? How am I going to get through this? Am I going to survive? Right. And when we live with that in the future like that, that's where all that anxiety lives.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, in the future also, you're absolutely right. Yep.
so it's this is what I really see with my grief clients. They're in the past because they want to stay connected to their loved one, and then they're in the future of like, how am I going to keep going on without them?
Mhm.
And so, really, mindfulness really is key.
Yeah, and there's so much more for you there when you start to pay attention and you can get out of those habits and patterns in your head, and you can see things differently, that you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're meant to learn from all of this. You don't know, what this loss is here to teach you. And again, I'm not belittling the loss, of course. It's when you lose someone, right, you're just so familiar with having them around that loss is very, very profound. So the point of mindfulness, actually, the very definition of meditation in Tibetan Gom means to become familiar with, right? So
Mhm.
there's a very powerful and peaceful source within everyone. You can call it your spirit, your higher self, conscious awareness, God, life, the universe, whatever. And so becoming familiar with that is going to give you that that hope. Yeah. Mhm.
Are you ready to take the next step on your grief journey with real tools and compassionate guidance? The Grief Ladies are launching a brand new workshop series based on their signature grief G.R.I.E.F framework. 5 trail markers to help you find your footing after your loss: grounding, rebuilding, interacting, evolving, and finding. Each workshop focuses on one trail marker, guiding you through practical steps to move from surviving to living again, all in a space that's honest, supportive, and real. Led by grief experts Kelly Daugherty and Karyn Arnold, these workshops combine decades of experience with tools you can start using today. Visit griefladies.com to explore the upcoming workshops, because you don't have to climb this mountain alone.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought up meditation. So I'd love to kind of chat about that because I'm a big fan of meditation. I've fallen off my good track that I was in, but I'm going to get back to it. But for a lot of, I think people struggle with that, right? There's so many misconceptions about
Yes.
what meditation really
Yeah.
is.
Hmm.
And they're like, oh, I can't do that, Kelly. I can't clear my mind. I'm like, yeah, of course not, because you have 70 to 90,000 thoughts every
Yeah.
single day. Like your brain is doing what it's supposed to do.
That's right.
So, what tips or techniques or hints could you maybe give to our listeners about meditation and make it something that they would be maybe willing to try?
Well, that's actually the very first practice in my set of practices per love is pledged to make the habit of watching your mind, which is meditation. The mind is all habit based. Anything you think of over and over and over again, consciously or subconsciously, is going to become what you think, what you know, your identity, your personality, your grief. Um, so if you start to pay attention to that, you to create a habit, you must do something over and over and over. So if you want to become good at meditation, 1 minute, 6 times a day.
Hmm.
1 minute, 6 times a day. You just take a deep breath and you're not judging, you're mindfully watching, not pushing it away, and you're just watching. You don't have to do anything else but watch because you're making the habit of watching. And then eventually, if you do this 1 minute, 6 times a day, 21 days, 64 days, it'll happen automatically. That's what habits are. The brain's like, okay, she's been doing this a lot. So we're going to take it out of the prefrontal cortex and make it more in automation. And so you'll be sitting there one day and you'll notice, oh, I'm seeing my thoughts, right? And so then you start to see you have this space of clarity. And so at first, when you're meditating, it's a good way to get into it, right? People think I have to sit on a cushion for 20 minutes. It's uncomfortable. It's a good way to get into it. Then you can kind of start to look at these thoughts, question them. Um, and the more you can let them go, those that are outdated and unhelpful, the more space you have, the more quiet in your mind, the easier it is to meditate, right? And eventually, Zen Buddhism particularly is about non-thinking. It's about absorbing your awareness that you've grown from your head, where you're right, those thoughts continue to go into your heart, right? Where it's quiet and peaceful and still. And that's where you're in the meditation, when you go to retreats and you're there for an hour or what, not an hour, just more consistently. And then beautifully you start to bring that meditation into your daily life. That's the journey of meditation, or my journey of meditation
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah. Well, I like it because it feels very low pressure,
Yeah.
and it feels like something everybody can do. Because I think maybe
Yep.
sometimes the idea of adding certain things
Mhm.
can feel really overwhelming, especially if it's something new. A lot of times when people are grieving, everything feels new, their whole life feels different.
Yep.
So, anything outside of that comfort zone, as I say, everything feels outside the comfort zone,
Yeah.
can be hard. But this sounds like something people could really pick up right away,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just slowly add.
everything seems heavy with grief, of course. And so yeah, it's very light. And that's the beauty of the mind. It's going to pick it up if you start doing something consistently. So just taking I'm going to give myself 1 minute 6 times a day to create this habit, and it starts you on the journey to growing that awareness and that peace that a lot of people, especially like you said, widowers, right? They're at home, that they're used to having that person around, and they're wondering what's next. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the concept of peace, and using that as a goal is something I talk to people about a lot. Um, because again, I think sometimes people they'll say, I want to be happy again, I want to find acceptance, I don't want to feel this way. And we're sometimes unknowingly setting maybe some unrealistic goals for ourselves. But I do think peace is actually more possible for people than they would realize. And it's something I point to a lot, especially when it comes to maybe like the unanswered questions. Grief
Mhm.
a lot of times brings up questions that people can just circle around. and their peace becomes very conditional upon finding answers,
Yeah.
to things.
Mhm.
Even if those answers don't exist, even if they logically understand that those answers can't be found.
Yes. Yes, I've
Um,
seen that. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So is there anything that you can speak to with that in terms of how some of what you do could help with that?
Yeah, a lot of finding that peace and clarity and quiet and stillness is accepting things. It's not needing things to be any different than exactly how they are,
Mm,
right? So especially those things that you can't change. That's patient acceptance. Practicing patient acceptance is a part of the practices, but it is those thoughts that you need things to be different than what they are in order to be
mm,
happy that keeps you on what I call, the thoughts, emotions, and feelings highway, just kind of all the horns honking and the clutter. But ultimately, it's not the way to true peace. Maybe if you get that thing that you think you need, you'll have temporary peace. But the way to find the true peace is to clear the clutter, right? To clear out those thoughts, to let them go, to find that space of clarity. And even beyond that, and within that peace, there's this vast realm of intelligence beyond thoughts. You can't, when you're in the chaos of your mind, you don't know what you don't know. You can't see through the lens of your experiences. So when you get out of that chaos, I mean, you have these like, oh my God, right? All of these things start to open up to you, all these understandings, all these perhaps memories or lessons that you've learned from whoever it was, that you've lost, and you find new purpose in that clarity. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be because, again, anything that you're striving for that you think you need to be different than what it is could provide you with a temporary peace, but not that solid kind of evolution of who you are that you might be looking for.
yeah. I think sometimes it's the feeling we have to be doing more, and in a lot of ways, we just need to be doing less.
Yeah, right.
We don't need to be spinning, we don't need to be
Right.
answering, we don't need to be solving, that idea and like that energy. And I try to talk to people about the idea that it's so limited, and yet we are so willing to use so much of it in places where it just goes nowhere,
That's true.
and it
That's
doesn't
true.
change or fix anything.
Mhm.
Um, so I really do like that idea. I want you to elaborate, tell us a little bit more about your PUR-LOVE framework and some of what that means.
Okay, thank you. So I started out in the more spiritual realm. I hit this really super low point when I actually thought that I was back at the time of HIV, and I thought I had contracted AIDS, and then you had to wait, or HIV, back when people were dying from it, and you had to wait 2 weeks to get the results. And I thought, what are my kids going to think when I'm gone? And just give me a negative result, and I'll change. And then when it came in negative, I with my karmic debt in tow, I went out to make good on that vow. So the love part of it, L-O-V-E, is the more spiritual part. Locating that space, opening your heart, investing in what you find there, the unconditional love, universal compassion, infinite wisdom, and finally expanding beyond your conditioned limits. The part that was missing that I later came to, which is what was backed up, by neuroscience, quantum physics, psychology, was the PUR. PUR is the more cerebral part. Pledge to make the habit of watching your mind 1 minute, 6 times a day. Evaluate what you find there, right? Look at it, question it. Is it helpful? Is it true? Is it serving me? And then recognize it as it comes up in your daily life. There's a moment when those thoughts first come in. When anyone who's out there grieving, there's a moment you wake up, and for that brief moment, you're fine. That's the stillness, and all this stuff comes rushing in, and you can try to catch it with that awareness. You can catch it. There are those thoughts. There are those habits that are causing me pain. I'm going to accept them, right? They're here. I accept you. And I'm not going to let them go. It's not about the thoughts. It's about how you react to them.
Mm,
And the more you can let them go, right? Let them go, accept them, not need them to be any different than what they are. Then you can locate that space between your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, that peace and clarity. And at first, you're only going to get a very small glimpse of it, right? In between, so your mind is a neural net of nerve cells that fire together, wire together, all of these things going off. And of course, you are going to meet with resistance, the mind is meant to protect its programming. So all of this grief, and the more you grieve and the more you stay in it, again, you need to process through it. It's going to make those connections stronger. So when you go to say, hey, I'm ready to find clarity, to move on, your brain is going to say, wait, that's not in the program. And it's going to try to reject it at first. And that's why you get people that are like, no, this isn't for me. I can't possibly move past this, because that's what the mind is saying. So just being aware that that's going to happen. But then the space, that love, that locate that space gets bigger and bigger. You meditate on it. You realize that that space is expandable. The mind expands well beyond the head and the head and the body. It's expanding, beyond and beyond. And then you move from your head down into your heart. Oh, open your heart. You use your power of imagination. And a lot of times you're gonna get sucked back up in your head, and that's that resistance, right? You use your power of imagination to open, 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 and you can start to feel this amazing flow, this peace and stillness, like I talked about before, the universal compassion, infinite wisdom, unconditional love. Then you invest in what you find there, that you spend as much time as you possibly can there to become familiar with it so that you can bring it up in your daily life, right? But then you also invest in the obstacles in your life. Anytime you get tripped up, any pain you have in your body are showing you what you're holding on to, what you need to release in order to set yourself free. Finally, the second E in PUR-LOVE, the expanding then beyond your conditional limits. When a person passes away, I had an experience recently, a good friend of mine and neighbor who was, just really nuts and bolts about, this is it. There's nothing more. It's it, that's it. When they pass away, their thoughts all go and they find that peace. So this particular person had a NDE, near-death experience, 2 or 3 times. And he came back and he told his wife, oh my God, there is so much more. This guy was not at all about it. He's like, there is so much more, and death is peaceful. And he was a defense attorney. He goes, well, as long as you're not getting murdered, okay. Death is peaceful. So the goal in this evolution, in this awakening, is to find that peace while you're still here. And it's completely possible. And to live in that peace from moment to moment, and to just enjoy the amazing journey that we're all on. So
Yeah.
that's it in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
Well, I think it has similarities, with what Kelly and I talk about and what we're trying to do too, which is just to help people understand that there's so much in life that it feels like we don't get a choice about, and that
Yeah.
we don't get to have a say,
Mhm.
in what happens and who we lose, how it happens, when it happens. But there does reach a point, with this sort of where do I go from here, that we do our choices open up again and how we're going to approach it, where we're going to allow our mind to go. I think sometimes we feel like we're just being dragged behind a car,
Yeah.
and we're just having to try to keep up, and whatever happens, we're in like defense mode,
Mhm.
for most of it. So I think, it's a lot about giving people that autonomy and giving, empowering them
Yeah.
to be approaching it with it, because we do see people coping with this in different ways. And you
Mhm.
can really take a similar person, similar background, similar circumstances, coping in very different ways. How do we explain that,
Yeah.
except what they decide to do,
Mhm.
maybe after?
Mhm. Yeah. It's what when you feel the outside world is actually, if you think about the mind expanding, and they talk in quantum physics about how everything is a wave of possibilities until you observe it, and then it comes into reality. So your outside world, I know people don't like to hear that, is a reflection of your inside world.
Mm.
Right? So if you're feeling stuck and lost, those are the habits and patterns and beliefs that you're reinforcing every day. So just to recognize that this isn't even who I am. This is, that you have so much more control over it when you go inside. With all the divisiveness and the chaos in the country right now, people feel anxious and out of control. but that is where the control is. And when you change the energy around your body, when you change those beliefs, when you sit in that stillness, you will see that your world will change. It's how it works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
If you've connected with our grief framework on the podcast, you'll find even more support inside our private, free Facebook community. Each week, we'll walk through grounding, rebuilding, interacting, evolving, and finding with prompts and practical tools you can use right away. It's a place to connect with others who are on their own trail through grief. Search the Grief Ladies community on Facebook and join us. So now we're going to make a bit of a switch into our Celebrate Their Life segment. And so many of the things that you've been talking about is really what this is about. And, we spend so much time getting caught up in the coulda, woulda, shouldas and the what ifs and not having our loved ones in our life anymore. And if they were here, this would be happening and whatnot, right? That we forget to remember all the good that they brought into our lives and all
Yeah.
that they taught us, and how can we honor them and carry them forward with us now, in the present moment, in a very obviously a very different way. But so that's really what, in my opinion, the Celebrate Their Life segment is about. And I think it's really about mindfulness when you really think
Yeah.
about it. That's
Mhm.
really what it is. It is about being in this present moment now, not, getting caught up in the, oh, if she was here, this would have happened, or, how sad it is that it is. And of course it is sad. It is sad. But
Yes.
how can you also be grateful for what you had? And I know for me, the reason this is an important topic for me is I made that shift in my grief. My mom died when I was 14, and this took a long time for me to get to this place. But I went from shifting on focusing on what I was missing by not having her here to what I was grateful that I learned from her.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be talking to you today if I hadn't, gone through that experience. And, as you said earlier in your interview, our journey that we go on, right? That's why
Mhm.
I'm here, because of
Yeah.
my journey with my
That's right.
mom's death.
That's
And
right.
so I can honor her today and celebrate her and be grateful that, you know what, I got 14 years with her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious, now that I went very long-winded, but about to Celebrate Their Life. What are your thoughts about that? And how do you think somebody grieving could maybe make that shift into
Ye
celebrating their life?
Gratitude is a very powerful healer. Um, this they say if you're here on earth, it's like being in soul graduate school, right? It's not meant to be easy, but there's so much to learn from it. So I have been through a lot. I lost both of my parents. I was alienated from my father as a child, which is a different kind of loss. And I struggled against alienation from my own children during my divorce, which took me to that really low point. But I don't regret. The only thing I regret is my kids being in the middle of my first divorce, but I don't regret the journey. I mourn the loss of those people, but I am so grateful because I have used those things I learned to move myself forward. I found that clarity and that peace and that understanding to realize that we're only here for such a brief time. That yes, you are mourning the loss of your loved one, but yeah, what about all of those things that you learned from them, all the joys that you have when you're, even 1 minute and 6 times a day, you can close your eyes and just imagine a joyful moment that you had with them and then hold on to that. Make that a habit and a pattern. And this earth is we're here the world is here so that we can evolve and heal. And those people were a part of that journey for you. And so to hold it in pain and suffering, might be your path, right? But there is another choice to find that gratitude for whatever they taught you. Even people that you're happy aren't in your life anymore teach you a lot of things. So if you can look at things from a perspective of what is it teaching me, what am I holding on to, what do I need to let go to set myself free, and live in that gratitude and appreciation for being here, being awake and alive, right? While still being here is a blessing. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yes, thank you so much, Holly. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, again, speaks to, I think, what we're always trying to encourage people to do in terms of, making those choices. Gratitude can be tough in the beginning, but
Yes.
ultimately we are hoping that there is that shift from, grieving with so much pain, because even the happy stuff can feel painful at different points, to eventually, moving into that place where we're grieving with love, which I think is, part of what Kelly's
I,
always trying to promote.
yeah, I love that. Well, grieving with love. That's because there's a new normal, right?
Yeah.
There's never going to be, you're never going to, not in this iteration of your existence, are you going to get that person back. But there is a new normal, and that can be the grieving with love. So I deeply appreciate also the two of you and what you're doing, because it's so final, right? When you lose someone, there's just no like maybe, right? It's just so final, and so to have you here to help people move forward with that is wonderful. So
Yeah. No, well, thank
thank
you.
you.
We're glad to have you be a part of it. And one thing that we do try to do, of course, is to send those who are listening home with something that they can start right away, something that, kind of that empowerment piece, that idea of choice, and things that can be added that would maybe help. So a couple of things that you had said, the idea of the 1 minute 6 times a day. I really also liked what you said about spending time in your heart, moving things from your head into your heart, which is, a quiet and maybe safe space.
Mhm.
Anything else, Holly, that you would suggest maybe sending someone home with that they could try and start right away with?
What I'd like to tell people is in any journey to clarity, it starts with, changing or seeing your habits, changing your habits. So if there's anything you hear, like if you hear this podcast and you're like, this is it, this is what I want, you need to listen to it over and over and over and over again. There was a CD by John Kabat-Zinn. Someone gave me 10 years into my journey. And even before I practiced Buddhism, I knew the power of repetition. And I just listened
Mhm.
to it, because if you only listen to something once, you think that's it. Your brain, again, will be got, that's not in the program, and it'll be gone. So you need to, if there's something you want to bring into your life, a lesson, a teaching, an understanding, just listen to it, practice it over and over and over, and it will start to become part of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that repetition's important. And it's interesting how well we understand that when it comes to our physical health. We know that I
Yeah,
can't eat one carrot and suddenly, lose 20 pounds, or go to the
right.
gym one time,
Exactly
and be
right.
able to run a marathon. Like, we have to put the time and the energy and the consistency. And it's the exact same thing with our emotional health. And I
Yeah,
think that's the
it is.
frustrating thing, because we're so eager to feel better, that and I do encounter people that's like, well, I did that. I did these things,
Yeah,
I meditated, I did all, and it's like, we have to keep doing it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
sometimes the hard part. That's the
Yeah,
hard
and you're
part. So
exactly right. If people can't see it, like physically, change or
yeah,
food, it's not there, but it's very much there. I tell people it's like an ocean liner, and if you're heading in one direction, you get a lot heading in that direction, and it takes time, right, to move it in the
my
direction that you
goodness.
want to go, but completely doable and possible. So.
Yeah.
Can I share something real fast before we go into the final part?
Sure.
It just made me think about this. When I first started getting on, I met my husband, and he was very into mindfulness and meditation,
Oh, nice.
and so I started meditating, and I was like, well, I'm not really sure this is helping me or not, right? And I do it in the morning with a gratitude journal, and then I wound up. It was over Christmas, so I fell off like track with meditation, busy, right? And my bank card got hacked. So I had to go in to get a new card to the bank, and I got really kind of nasty with the bank teller. And cuz she was just not like listening, and it was just frustrating. And I got in the car, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, what has happened to me? And I was like, oh, you haven't meditated in the last 2 weeks, Kelly. And
Mhm.
so it taught me, and this is what I tell all my clients, like, you don't always know how it's helping you until
until
you
you fall
stop
off.
it, and then you
Mhm.
realize how much it was actually helping you.
You're exactly right. I fell off my journey twice, and it was right both times. Life is like boom, just like
Uh,
yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So
so based also on our grief framework, we talk a lot about routines, and this kind of goes align with that as well. And
mhm.
it's important to stay
It's
consistent.
with grief or with PUR-LOVE, what I have found so fascinating is from ancient wisdom to modern day thought leaders, they're all pointing back to this. Everything points back to
Mhm.
this journey of clarity and understanding and getting out of that chaos in the head and into the clarity of the mind. I love that. So, yeah, of course, our practices are going to be similar because they're all based in what is truth. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you're both talking about good examples of falling off and still being able to get back to it,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
that happens for people in all kinds of different ways. And I think sometimes we feel discouraged if we feel like we're starting over or we're
Mhm.
frustrated with ourselves. We know people grieving, they're already feeling pretty down on themselves about some stuff. So, it's just like, okay, start today, start over. We can start
Right.
over at any time.
That's the beauty of it. Doesn't matter what age you are, right? It's just you're only here now. There's only now. So
Right.
it's not too late. It's now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Holly, we've really enjoyed having you on here. I'm wondering if, for people who are listening, if they wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
So my website is hollymcneil.com, two L's on McNeill. So HOLLYMCNEILL.com. I do have a year-round mindful living class. It meets twice a month. And we practice PUR-LOVE. We start at P at the beginning of the year and we end with expanding. And then at the beginning of the year, we start over. So no matter when you start, we repeat, we repeat. It's a great community and a free 21-day challenge for anyone who wants to make that habit of watching the mind. It's all on the website. So,
That's great. That's great. And I'm always saying to people, the more tools, the better. You can learn so much, from for participating and becoming a part of the community. And what's nice about doing something like that is the reinforcement of it too.
yeah.
As opposed to always just trying to do things on your own. So
Yeah, group
yeah,
meditation, group practices are tend to be stronger. You're right, because that
yeah.
that that awareness, that mind is all kind of like-minded people. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, Holly, thank you so much for everything today. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Holly.
thank
It's
you
been
for
great.
having me. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. It was great. I
Yes.
love what
Thank
you're
you so
doing. So,
well,
Thank
same
you.
here. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Grief Ladies.
Don't wait to feel better to get started. Getting started is what makes you feel better. Put this week's tool to work.
If today's episode helped, share it with someone who needs it and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you.
And remember, we're here for you, your trusted grief ladies, navigating this path together.